Even the police are getting confused about which haunted house is the real deal. This is Murder Week for October 12th. Turning to old business, one of the homeless people who got bashed by a serial killer in Texas last month speaks out.
He had them by the handles, and he was just swinging them into my... He hit me twice in the head.
It's been just about 2.5 weeks since this man was beaten over the head with a pair of bolt cutters by an accused serial killer. And the physical scars can't compare to the mental ones.
Once I knew he was trying to kill me, that does something else to the brain. It's like, it puts you in, you're about to go, bro. Like, this is it.
He asked us to call him Salam, and he's describing his near-death encounter with Ramon Escobar, a felon and 6-time deportee charged in the beatings of 7 predominantly homeless men in L.A. and Santa Monica. 4 of them are now dead.
I knew he was hitting me with something hard, and he just keep coming up here with it.
And a reward for Chicago's latest serial killer has reached upwards of $18,000. The reward is being offered by the Chicago Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, a community activist, a Jewish organization, and Crime Stoppers. Authorities are looking for information on a masked gunman who murdered 2 people by shooting them in the head point-blank range. The fatal attacks occurred within 36 hours of each other, and this is according to the Daily Mail. Great for true crime news. Attorneys for the Seminole Heights serial killer are in the discovery phase.
That's right. Attorneys expected to go over particular parts of this case, specifically evidence collected. Howell Donaldson III remains in jail at this hour for 4 murders that happened in Seminole Heights this time last year. Detectives tell us he used a gun to kill the people at random. Today's hearing is to go over reports related to items collected during his arrest and the search of his vehicle. The judge will also talk about all reports related to the gun and casings allegedly used in the murders.
And everyone's favorite punching bag, Chris Watts, has a very talkative informant close to the case. The Chatty Cathy is saying Chris Watts spends 23 hours a day in his cell. He has no TV. He doesn't have much to do in jail. He sleeps a lot. He has a picture of his family and a Bible. He can just sit there and look at the picture and read the Bible. West Dallas, Wisconsin is spooked after a scary guy goes to a haunted house. He was out on bond and visibly drunk when he choked a woman and grabbed another woman's breasts while he went through a haunted house in Racine County on Sunday, a criminal complaint alleges. He faces charges of 4th-degree criminal sexual conduct. He went through the haunted house and waited till the girls jumped out and grabbed her boobs. A spoopy skeleton found at a festive Halloween display in Virginia is being tested for human remains. Days after a sheriff's deputy discovered what he thought were human remains in Sterling, it's still unclear whether the investigator found a person or Halloween decorations. Hours after the grisly discovery was made, a Loudoun County supervisor posted online it was a Halloween skull. They're looking into it. Police in Evansville, Indiana have connected 2 cold cases, and they're now on the hunt for a possible serial killer. Red-haired women were discovered dumped near U.S. highways in Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas. Police say the killings may be the work of an unknown serial killer. Cases are probably connected, said Detective Aaron Frederick of the Kentucky State Police. There's a lot of similarity. This is according to UPI. And in legal news, a murder house in Mexico is being described as a house of horrors as details emerged of a murder, dismemberment, cannibalistic duo accused of being serial killers. They were caught pushing a baby carriage full of human remains down the street. They murdered 20 women before feeding remains to pets. A man has admitted to murdering as many as 20 women after he and his wife lured them to their home, sexually abusing some of them before chopping up their bodies for pet food. According to the British tabloids, Juan Carlos slit the throats of his victims before having sex with their corpses and then used their bodies as pet food and plant fertilizer. Police are also suggesting that they were cannibals. The couple was behind at least 10 murders, and the police allegedly intercepted them outside of their home in Ecatepec with body parts they were planning on dumping. A no longer serving Marine turned serial killer was sentenced to death this week, says no hard feelings to the jury in Illinois.
We also have breaking news right now. Convicted serial killer Andrew Urdiales has just been sentenced to death in a Santa Ana courtroom. The former Marine murdered 5 women in Orange, in San Diego, and Riverside counties between the years 1986 and 1995. That sentence just handed down. Urdiales is already serving a life sentence for the murders of 3 women in Chicago.
An ex-sailor turned serial killer is up for parole in South Carolina. A former U.S. Navy sailor convicted of killing 2 teenagers is up for parole again due to a law in effect when he was sentenced to 2 life terms in 1974. He's set to have a parole hearing Wednesday. The victims' families are obviously against this. Finally, A desperate daughter pleads for a serial killer to not be paroled, saying, "To let him walk the streets is just craziness." This is in New South Wales, Australia. Cases from 1977. Berwyn Rees entered a Bondi Junction gun shop in order to manager and 26-year-old customer Christopher Greenfield to lie face down on the ground. Then he shot them both in the back of the head from point-blank range. Then he loaded a cache of weapons and ammunition into his car and ran to Mount Sugarloaf in the Macquarie area. For 3 years, the murders remained unsolved until forestry and telecom workers heard his target practice shooting in the bush. And in killer-related news, an Army Staff Sergeant and convicted war criminal was featured in an anti-suicide ad. Former Army Staff Sergeant Robert Bales is serving a life sentence for murdering 16 Afghan civilians, including 7 children, in a village outside of Kandahar in early March of 2012. He is the new face of the Army's National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. Free libraries in Indiana are memorials to the victims of a serial killer. Free public libraries are popping up in the Irvington area in honor of 7 women murdered by a serial killer in Gary, Indiana. It was set up by a woman in Indianapolis whose daughter was also found dead in Gary around the same time. And finally, a Cobb 4 investigation found a particularly scary haunted house.
They have the scariest haunted house in their neighborhood, but not because of any ghosts or goblins.
Would you want your kids going to a haunted house where a registered sex offender lives? Our 4 Investigates team found out about this and went right to that home to get to the bottom of it.
As our Chris Ramirez explains, despite how you may feel, that registered sex offender was not breaking any law.
A concerned resident sent us these photos, poster board advertisements for a haunted house near San Mateo and Comanche. On the front door, a display showing the haunted house would be open on Halloween at 7 p.m. after dark.
No, I don't agree with that at all.
The concern? The man who lives there is Scott Neff, a registered sex offender who was once sentenced to more than 7 years in prison. Online court records show in 1996 he pleaded guilty to 2 counts of criminal sexual penetration, 2 counts of criminal sexual contact with a minor, and 1 count of criminal sexual exploitation of a minor.
Well, he's going to lure kids in there, and God only knows what happens.
Of course it's not appropriate, if that's the case, that he's been convicted of being a sex offender, to have a haunted house for Halloween, to lure children.
Hey, how's it going? We're looking for Scott. We were surprised by how willing he was to talk to us about the haunted house at his home. He said the haunted house was his roommate Randy's idea. One of the concerns about that some of your neighbors have brought to us is that because you're a registered sex offender and you're advertising this haunted house, some of your neighbors feel this is a little bit inappropriate. And so we just wanted to give you an opportunity to explain why you think it's appropriate to hold a haunted house where I would imagine children would be coming, right?
Yeah, I imagine children would be coming. It's Randy who is doing it. It's his holiday. He loves it, and he's so decided to run the haunted house. There's nothing in the rules or regulations that says it can't be held here.
Let's pause for a moment. We checked on that, and he is right.
And that's all I got for you today. Thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week for more deaths, dismemberments, and probably some spooky, scary Halloween stuff. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell.